I'm Leann Turner, and this is Arwen Welsh. And we thought we'd come together and do some questions and answers of things that are put our way and experiences that we've had really on guides.
I think we're going to start by talking about guides, yeah. I mean, a lot of people do ask about, experiences that we have. Either they've had experiences themselves or they would like to meet their guides, But I guess, the thing is that it is a very personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so really we can only talk about our own personal experiences, and I've heard lots of things from other people that are very different, so there's no sort of, I mean, like you like to say, no one size fits all, isn't it? So that's true, and there isn't really a right or a wrong way to do things, so we just thought we'd talk a little bit about things from our own perspective.
And obviously you can give your input on the best way to go to help people to get in contact.
Yeah, I mean, for both of us, we both feel, don't we, that it's through our heart. It's I suppose there is the thing around, as we do healing work, and this is of course why so many people have traumatic experiences. They go down the healing path and then they start to have spiritual experiences and eventually meet their guides, and that's very often how it happens. But the reason for that is because that healing that they're doing leads them to work on their chakra system. Mm-hmm. And part of that is, working on their heart chakra. And it's through the heart chakra that we connect with our soul.
It's finding your soul again, isn't it?
It is.
So you're becoming knowing it, and then as we get into school, we're kind of, in my opinion, you're pushed and swayed into a certain expectation of learning, and you kind of lose your way. And if you was to ask a 2-year-old up to a 5-year-old about life, they would give you a totally different perspective than a teenager that has just gone through junior school, hitting senior school, as well as, an adult that's not in tune with their soul. So I think you kind of go through that process where you lose you, and you have to find you again.
Yes, I think that's very true. And then alongside that, if there have been traumatic experiences or negative energy that we've picked up that needs to be sort of healed and cleared, that can cause blockages for us, can't it? So, there is that thing, that natural sort of process through healing whereby we raise our vibration, and I always think of it that when it comes to guides working with us, that they're sort of up here in other dimensions, and we're here, and as we raise our vibration, they can come to meet us. So I think that's sort of why, as I said, why that does happen once people get to a certain point in their healing and their self-development. That's what it is, isn't it? Self-development and getting to know the self, as you said. So, I mean, I suppose from my own point of view, I was brought up religiously and I always prayed. I was taught to pray. I still pray. And in my mind, I was praying to God. It doesn't matter how you refer to it, source, energy, it doesn't matter. But I did always hear a voice come back, and so it was like a conversation, And I remember saying to my mum about this, and she was kind of like, "Oh, don't be silly, darling, it's your imagination." It wasn't. And as I said, that still goes on today. But eventually, as we've already outlined, I myself sort of went on the healing journey, and so naturally, gradually your vibration raises. I remember doing a meditation one day, and I was one of those people that had a sort of spontaneous Kundalini awakening, and all sorts of things went on physically, you know.
Eruption, isn't it?
It is. So, you know, it's everything that everybody says. You know, you do feel the energy just whooshing around your body and up your spine, extremely hot. And then I would find that when I meditated, I would go into spontaneous yoga. Oh. It was like, it was shaking. Like I was shaking everything out.
Wow.
You know, shaking out energy and sort of clearing that energy chakra system so it could flow, really, I guess, was what was happening. So it didn't take very long after that until, again, during meditation, I would start to hear my guide. So for me it was hearing, and I started to have visions as well. The first vision that I had the universe sort of open up to me, so I saw the whole universe. That's what it felt like anyway. And then I saw what I now know to be a Lyran galactic being. So it looked like, I think you've had a similar experience, haven't you? With so it looked like a lion's head, really. And that was the first vision I ever had. And I also saw lots of souls coming in, lots of faces, sort of one after another, hundreds of them there were. It seemed to go on all night, which were related to other lives. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
I know it now because it's been explained to me.
But at the time, that can be quite...
Oh gosh.
You've never experienced it before, and all of a sudden, like, you start seeing things like that, and you can't help but think, do I need medicating or something? Because this is what
exactly
life has put your way, isn't it? From
Yeah.
past generations and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not been spoken out as much.
Yeah.
And I think, like, what's taken some people a lifetime to get there, people are waking up even quicker now. So all of a sudden they're having, like, you had this massive awakening, then seeing all this stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you think, God, years ago they would put you in straitjackets.
But you know, I was just thinking
like
that to myself this morning when I was walking in the garden, and I thought to myself, goodness me, you know, when you start to think and talk about these things, years ago they'd have said hearing voices. Well, that's schizophrenia, we need to lock you away.
and fill you up with tablets to numb it. And I mean, you've only got to watch films on TV, and that is what happens, you know, when you start seeing things. So you can see how generations, like when children start doing it and people go, it's an imaginary friend.
Yes,
and it's
like my mum.
No,
It's your imagination.
But most parents will do that because if you're not of knowing it or understanding it yourself, that's the easiest option to take.
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate in as much as I was in a relationship at the time where somebody was already working spiritually. So, although very differently, so didn't have so much experience as around sort of galactic beings and that sort of thing, but nevertheless there was some knowledge there that
so you could
didn't make me
back.
feel quite so strange about it, you know. But yeah, and eventually I remember it was January the 2nd, and because my children were with their dad for New Year's, and I went for my usual walk in the village, and as I was coming back, I literally, it was Christ energy, and a being put their hand out to me, just a hand, that's all I saw. Came out in the middle of the street and said, there's a gift for you. And a couple of days went by, and I was laying on my yes, that's right, I was laying on my sofa. I switched the telly off, and in the corner of my room I saw two galactic beings, and they were lovely. The energy was absolutely beautiful, and they were shimmery, like pink and green shimmery colours, and they said, we'd like to work with you. Wow. So I thought to myself, as I didn't feel frightened, you know, I felt safe, I thought, well, who am I to say no?
Because it's an amazing experience, isn't it?
What do you say?
Yeah.
So I said yes, and then it was almost sort of instantaneous. I fell asleep, And when I woke up, I had a musical phrase in my head. And I am a musician, so I sang it 2 or 3 times to get it, to remember it. I went to the piano and I wrote it out, played it and wrote it out. And then as I walked through my house to use the bathroom, the radio in my kitchen came on all by itself, and it was the exact musical phrase that I mean, it was amazing, and it was I forget what the song is now, which is dreadful. It's in my phone because I've now got it on my Spotify, but it was in Latin. Hayley Westenra, I think, sang it. And when I looked it up online and did a translation of the Latin, it was all about returning to your soul. Wow. And finding your soul. Mm. And like you, I teared up, and I was because I just felt this overwhelming love. It was really a beautiful experience. And the next day, I was in the shower and I started talking light language, just like that. So that was the gift. That was the gift. And so that was really, I mean, in terms of who the guides are, the guides I met in my meditation I would describe as angelic. Since talking the light language, let me just backtrack. So I think we were talking earlier, weren't we, and saying, you know, we have guides for different things. So I have guides that I talk to for myself, very often angelic, and then there are those that I work with to do healing work, to channel light language messages, and they are different. So over the course of time, there's been a whole array of those, and we can get on to talking about who they are and what they look like. But let's hear about your experience.
It's funny because, like, I love listening to people that have, like you, it's all happened, like, for me, relatively new, because mine goes back over years. So I get so passionate and excited. I can feel my heart just expanding so much listening to you. Like, I'm like genuinely choked because mine's been like such a long time, and when you see people open up that quick,
well, but then that does have its I mean, it's great, but there's also a lot to cope with in terms of the physical effects. I recently did do a couple of videos on that.
Well, it's
that massive ascension we're having so quickly.
But everyone's going through it.
That also brings all of the what people call symptoms, you know. But everything else happens quickly alongside it.
Like, for the ones that are opening up quickly, like, my passion comes into it that you're all opening up that quickly that you haven't got time to make almost like make the mistakes like we've had from like a lifetime, if that makes sense, as in, because the planet vibration has gone up so quickly, you're all unfolding,
and we're supported in that by the planet's energy as well.
Before, you haven't. You've had that slow process of doing it all. So the whole thing, to me, I just find it fascinating, amazing, and beautiful. But to try and think back over all of my experiences is sometimes like, I've done so much clearing and upgrading on my own body that there's so much that I forget, and it's only when people talk about things that suddenly you have this little like vision of, oh my god, I remember that. That was like donkey's years ago. So it's really hard to, and I fighted mine for a long time as well, where like now when you open, you get such, your visions and everything that's come with it are so powerful. And like you were saying, even to have people around you that not understand the journey that you're on, but understand the spiritual nature of stuff helps you. Because when you have, I know no one around me did anything. So like, I have many conversations with my mum, and she says, did I do something wrong because I didn't understand? And I say to her, that right or wrong, I'm where I am now because of my lessons that I've learned along the way, and everyone would have contributed to it, whether it was in a good way or a bad way, whatever way. I'm grateful for all of them because it's where I am now. But I can remember like going back and having different experiences. I remember when my granddad died, I was like 15. And I remember writing a letter in my nan's kitchen to him to go in the coffin. And I heard he worked from home. He was a precious stone cutter. And he had a room. Yeah, he had a room upstairs in the house. And I heard the door click. And I was the only one in the house because I was staying at my nan's. I heard his footsteps come down the stairs. And my nan had this big glass unit opposite the kitchen. It's still there. And I saw him walk round. And as he stood in the kitchen, all the papers that I was working on all flew off and landed around the floor. And even to this day, I kick myself because I ran out of the front, I ran out the side door, stood out there, and was petrified. And I'm like, I would give anything to see that now. And I often think, why did you run? He never did anything to frighten you. He was so gentle. And yet, like, I'd been to see him in like the mortuary, and I'd seen him, so to see him laying there soulless and then seeing that, I can't even tell you as a 15-year-old what that did to me. Poop my pants was probably an underestimation, because when I saw him in the coffin at the chapel of rest, I passed out.
Oh, bless.
And then, but I wanted to go back in there again because I didn't want that to be my experience. But just at that age, to like feel the skin and no colour and no lively personality, and then to see that, it did muck my head for a little while. I remember looking around going, well, where is he then?
Yes, because it's them showing us that, you know, we have a soul that lives on, and it's a short step from, you know, understanding that our soul is something other than this body that we have that lives on, to then understanding that, you know, we are multi-dimensional. And so now, you know, I know you're very much working along those lines, and that we can now see other lives that we're living, you know, not just other lives that we've lived or living on this planet in other times, but also other lives in other places in the universe, you know, which is, when you think about it, is absolutely incredible.
I know. It's like my grandson, he's 5, and he said to me, you do know we live on, what's he said to me? Nanny, you do know that we live on, is it we're multi-dimensional? Or we're not just living one life at a time.
Life at a time.
And I know that, but to hear it out of a 5-year-old's mouth, I was just like, I must have looked like dribbly, but I was just
wow.
This
is it. So I think, you know, you were talking about how things are happening very quickly, but it's an extension of that. The children that are coming onto the planet now hold more light than ever before.
You can see it.
And it's lovely because, as we said, we're all being much more supported by the planet, so it's easier for us to go through ascension very quickly, and to have this remembering of information and skills that we have, like healing practices, for instance, channeling, and bring all of that back. It's easier for us to do that when we're now living on a planet that has a much higher vibration.
It's ready for us.
Yes, exactly.
We've now got to rise to that, haven't we? Instead of, like, the planet has just taken such a huge jump upwards, isn't it? Now we need to catch up. I mean, I keep hearing snippets of people going, the planet's in trouble. But actually, the planet isn't in trouble. The planet has been here through many evolutions, okay, that's always here. It's us as beings on the planet that we evolve. And I just, like you say, you look at the younger generation coming in, and you just think that, like, for me, I look at grandchildren, so that's like 2 generations back, and I just think, what are their grandchildren going to come into?
Well, this is it, isn't it?
God, the excitement that I feel in my body, the fact that
it is exciting.
Yeah, if each generation come in with that knowledge and knowing and vibration, where is this beautiful planet and the beings on it going to be in generations to come?
Well, and it's a privilege you know, for our generation to be like way showers for that, facilitating.
Hold the light for them.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the most beautiful aspects, really. But I mean, some of the messages that they've channeled about the planet and the changing vibration are, you know, when you talk to people and they you know are concerned about the planet is, you know, going through a troubled time and what's going to happen, and like you, I assure them that actually what's happening is the planet is going through the same process that we described at the very beginning of this discussion, of that sort of healing, and part of that is purging negative energy, you know,
releasing
so
fear.
the planet does that as well, you know. So I mean, I just think I mean, this is a whole nother topic, so maybe we'll talk about this another time, but you know, the energetic grid and all of that on the planet and those changes that are taking place. But thank goodness that we're here now, as we're saying, and that you know, we're witnessing it, but we also are facilitated by it to do our own ascension work.
And that's also, like we were saying about guides, they come in for that, to help you extend the extension process, to help you also tap into your knowledge that's in there. I mean, I always, like, I have this thing when I go to bed at night, I always ask that during the night, when I'm not off doing my work elsewhere, that I always wake up bringing something forward from another lifetime that's irrelevant for helping now.
Information, knowledge, yes.
I don't need to. I know I've had lots of lifetimes. For me, I don't need to know where. I don't need to go back and revisit them all. I just need to bring forward the important knowledge, because every lifetime we live, we would do something in it that's important and relevant for where we are, our soul is at this present time. So to me, it's always about tapping back, forward.
That's interesting.
To bring forward that.
It's interesting you say that, because sometimes when I'm working with clients, you know, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if I'm channeling, they can ask questions, and they do. But sometimes, you know, they'll want to know, have I been at this time, or have I been this life or that life, you know. And one of the things that certainly the beings that I work with have always said, well, we'll bring through what is relevant to the healing that needs to happen today. So you don't always get. It's a bit like if you're working as a medium and you're bringing through loved ones. You can't always. So it's not made to order, is it? You can't always say, right, I want to speak to my nanny, and up she comes. You know, it just depends what you need and what is relevant at that point in time. But I mean, I think one of the most interesting sort of revelations, I suppose, for me was. And I know that this isn't everybody's experience, but as various beings would introduce themselves, because like you, I astral travel, so I do energetic work on the Earth's grid, clearing energy across the planet for the collective, but also go off to other planets and work and do this similar work there. And during the course of this travel, I meet other beings, as I've said, that are usually those that I work with. So of the ones that I've seen, there are more that I work with that I hear, and I recognise their energy signature, but I haven't necessarily seen them. But of the ones that I've seen, there's the Lemurian felines I mentioned, also Lyran felines, Lemurians, Arcturian I work with, but I haven't. No, I've only just seen them. That's right. And the Sirians I've not seen. So, but what I was going to say is that when I go there and I talk to them, I've always asked each one of them as they've come along, "Who are you?"
So good.
Sometimes they'll give me a name. Sometimes not. Oh, I'm just curious. I'm nosy.
That's why I love the fact that you do. I'm like,
well, I think while I'm here, I'm going to find out what I can. So, you know, so I say, "Who are you?" And I get the same answer every single time. And they say, "I'm you. I am you in Lyran form, or in your Lyran life, or in your Sirian life, or whatever it is." And at first I was a little bit sceptical the first time this happened. I thought, well, that sounds a bit odd. We'll see how this progresses. But as one by one, as they all said the same thing, I started to think, okay, right, okay, I'm getting the message now. And in exploring it, what it is that the beings that I channel are actually aspects of my own soul living elsewhere. So it's almost as if you're channeling your higher self, really. Not in the same sense as, sometimes we talk about the higher self and we say, well, in terms of intuition, for instance, and we say, well, if you want to make a decision, go within, into your heart space, connect with your soul, talk to your higher self and see how you feel and what information you get. So it's not like that exactly, but it kind of is in another way, So, and I find that at first I thought I was a little bit almost disappointed because I thought, I'm quite sociable, and I thought I'd quite like to get about and meet other people. I don't want to keep meeting myself. What's this about? But now I've sort of adapted to it, and and it's actually really lovely, and I can see why it would be, and it touches on what you were just saying about the purpose being to bring in to the planet frequencies. That's light language, talking about coding, healing energy, information, knowledge and skills that are relevant, that we actually already know about. We just need to remember it. And if you think of it like that, it kind of makes sense why, you would meet galactic beings that are part of your soul or your higher self, because that's you remembering. That's you remembering those other lives and bringing all of that in, So I kind of reconciled myself to it in the end, But I know a lot of people haven't or don't view it that way, and that's absolutely fine. And they perhaps channel, do channel very separate beings. Yeah. And as I said, I have, work with Angelics as well. Even the dragon energy, the two dragon, the fire and water dragon that come in, I originally thought, excellent, this is the break. So they turned out to be aspects of myself as well. Yeah. So it just seems to be the way it sort of rumbles for me. And as I said, I can only talk about my own experience of who my guides are.
The only time I kind of questioned it is when other people questioned me, and that's when I was like, okay, so everyone's saying to me that I should get to know them and do this, and I remember sitting a few times and going, okay, so who am I working with? What is it? And I kept getting, why do you need to know you? You know you. Trust you.
Same message, yeah.
And I've always seen each person as a diamond, okay, with all these facets, and each facet is a soul element, and it's not just this earthly plane, it's every planet we've ever been on, because to me, as we pass from this vehicle into the next, we're rebirthing into something else. So it would be very naive to think that this is only our one lifetime, or we're only ever going to live on Earth. Our soul gains from everywhere, and when our mission or our soul's mission is finished on this earthly plane, it will then need to go in to somewhere else, whatever else that's, and that's how I've always been shown it. Obviously to everyone it's different, we're all on different journeys, and I can appreciate that, but for me that's how it's always been shown. And as in a collective, to me we're just one massive diamond. So when you come across people, you're deflecting off of the things, you're mirroring what people need to heal, what they need to bring up in themselves, all different things. That's how I always have seen it. So then once we've completed what we need to do, we shine. And that's where your light comes from, your heart.
Well, I was going to say that listening to you talk like that, which is a beautiful way to put it, but this is the language that surrounds all of these experiences, and particularly, obviously, from our point of view, we work with light language, don't we? Like, you know, I know both of us have literally seen light coming down onto the planet, and it's a very apt sort of illustration, you know, that facet of a diamond and light reflecting, because that is literally what is happening. And I know many people that speak light language or channel in other ways have also seen the geometric shapes.
Some
you know,
of the
wonderful,
pictures are beautiful,
yes, exactly,
aren't they?
yeah. So I don't draw or write light language, but I have seen, you know, the geometric shapes that they're talking about. So I mean, there's all of that. I think that's a very good, sort of, as I said, a good illustration to demonstrate, you know, what that looks like on an individual level as we hold more light in our bodies, but then how that reflects out, and how we reflect that out as a collective onto each other. And very often, you know, when you're talking to galactic beings, they will say, we wish you could see yourselves as we see you. We wish you could see your planet and you as a collective as we see you. So beautiful. So, you know, shiny.
Yeah. Do you know, I did a meditation because I wanted to see it from another perspective. And I'll never forget, I stood in front of the mirror and I'd done all my inner child work and that. And then I asked that I could see my soul. So I could see...
What a good idea. Yeah.
And I got frustrated with myself. And I look back now and I'm like, it was so beautiful. But I remember looking in front of this mirror going, oh, all I could see was this immense light. Couldn't see anything else. It was just piercing. And I'm like, I'm going to myself, where is my soul? I can't see it. And then when I came out after, I was like, why didn't I get anything? Why did I just get the light? And all I could get was, you asked to see your soul. And I look back now and it brings a smile to my face because it was so pure and beautiful. And it was like, beautiful. You asked to see it and you actually got the reflection of what you reflect out.
What a lovely
But instead you think, but we tend to think that we should see, I don't know, maybe I thought I would see myself but in a different aspect, but what I saw
I suppose very often people see their auras or something like that,
Yeah.
which is actually not, it's your energetic field, isn't it, here, as a human body, the energetic magnetic field that you have around you. So that's not quite the same, is it?
No,
It's
and
actually seeing your soul. So,
and it is, and we are pure.
Yeah.
And when you step into your heart space and you actually feel that and see that, it's beautiful because then you can emanate it out. And I mean, I don't know if you saw me standing in your garden barefoot before we started doing this. And it's just, I have this, I love wherever I go, just to root that in and just expand it out of your hands. It's almost like you've got the sun beaming out of you, but it's 100 times brighter. It's
and it's that frequency of love, isn't it? I mean, I've never done that in front of the mirror. That's a really good idea.
It's
but
powerful.
I have said I'd like to, see myself, and what I've always seen in dreams or visions is a star.
Yeah,
it's a star in the universe.
That's what we are.
Yeah. So and it looks like a star to me. It's probably light. It's actually a pinpoint of light. When
I connect people to their higher selves, I always say, find the shiniest, brightest star in the sky, and that's how I connect them up. And that's their higher self, and then I connect them down to Mother Earth. But I've always seen them as that really bright. And there will always, every person, if you say that to, and it's never going to be the same star because we're all different. So, and you will shine out brighter than everyone else because you're connecting to your higher self.
Yeah. That just reminds me of that Roald Dahl quote. I'm going to forget how it goes now, but about, if we can think we're not very attractive as human beings, and then if we think beautiful thoughts, it will shine out from our face and we'll look beautiful. And it's a similar idea, isn't it? That actually we get bogged down in all sorts of things,
mainstream,
don't we? And we forget that actually, we are very beautiful.
Well, when people first see, if you was to meet a blind person, the first thing they can go by is they'll feel your energy. And that's your soul energy rippling out, so your heart energy, and they'll feel that before. They won't be able to see you.
No.
This is just, I say your body is like a car, so we're just borrowing this for this journey here, but your soul is what ignites everything of you. Like we were saying, you know, when we slip over and with then just our car's laying there, it's lifeless because that our soul's not in it. And I always say, like, and that's where to me your heart comes into it, because you know your brain can die and they can keep you alive. Your heart, your body cannot function without your heart. So it just goes to show how important it is to slip out of your headspace into your heart space.
Yes.
How important that is, because we do live from our heart, whether you want to believe it or not. But unless that's pumping, you're not.
And I think
moving.
that's why, you know, as we started out saying, that, you know, if we want to meet guides or higher self, whatever, however we want to describe that, it's by connecting with our soul through our heart space. It is that. So, and because sometimes, you know, you mentioned the mind can doubt, you know, and kind of lack faith, if you want to put it in old-fashioned terms, and when that steps in, or it can be fearful as well. Like you described initially, you had a bit of fear around things. You know, once we've removed that, those kind of not negative exactly, but energetic obstacles, if you like, which are coming from our programming in our mind, then we can really drop down into our heart space, and we will find that we do start to have these experiences, you know. So I guess, you know, to answer the question about how to meet your guides is to do the inner work, to do the healing, to, you know, raise your vibration, then spend time in your soul, in connecting with your soul and your higher self through your heart, and set your intention is probably the last one, is that, you know, ask.
Yeah, and
literally,
best at night before you go to sleep. Ask. Because we all go off and do stuff. So, and then you know what you get given in the morning, or what you remember, or sometimes an unfolding. I always say to people, you know, pay attention the next day to what's around you. Like if you see a white feather and then you suddenly hear a name or something like that.
This song.
It's all around you. It's just untapping from mainstream to give yourself the privilege and respect of enjoying your journey.
I think that's very true, and I mean, you know, I'm sure we both work with clients that have sometimes said, I know I have said, I really want to meet my guides, and when is this going to happen, or when is that going to happen, and I want to be this kind of healer, or I want to do that, and you know, the trouble is that sometimes things, you know, our path and the reason that we're here, our purpose and how we're going to work can be wildly different from our expectations. So it's really important. I think there's two things around this. The first is not to build up your own expectations too much. Again, that's mind-centered, around the ego.
Trying to control it.
And and that's not where we want to go. Again, we want to be in the heart centre, but staying open, because it can, as I said, we can get locked into our own expectations, and we go down a sort of rabbit hole, and that isn't actually what our soul is here to do. I mean, if somebody said to me, "You're going to be talking light language," a few years ago, I'd have thought, well, first of all, I wouldn't know what they were talking about. But once if they described it, I'd have thought, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that.
It's about being, we've got a bumblebee coming to
say hello.
To play. It's the setting your intentions and going in the flow.
That is what I'm describing, really, the flow. And then, there was another thing. Oh, that's right. Just sometimes, you know, we can be so anxious to reach a certain level in our, again, mind, ego, of raising our vibration, that we get frustrated that things aren't happening, that other people are having experiences that we're not, and all of this. I always say to people, it will happen when you're ready. It will happen at exactly the right time for your soul's journey. So you can't, I mean, yes, there's lots of things that we can do to help us raise our vibration, of course, as we've outlined. But then we have to be patient and,
And that's
and
also
let
part
it
of our
unfold.
journey as well, isn't it? Patience.
It can't be forced, can it?
No.
It's just.
And just to enjoy it. It's a pleasure, and it's like you do have. And I'm not saying it's easy because it's not, but enjoy it because even the bad bits are blessings as well.
Yes, and I alluded to the thing about when we have a very fast ascension process, a developmental sort of journey. Of course, all the other sort of symptoms, don't really like that word, but effects, about changes in our life, the physical effect, all of this, they're also happening very quickly as well. And at the time, you kind of think, I know I did, I thought, what the heck is going on? What is this? I can't, this is too much. This is just
overwhelming.
too overwhelming is the word. That is the word. And it is very hard to cope. It's so important to get the right support, and there's lots out there. But I've forgotten where I was going with this now. Yeah, so we have all of this. Oh, that's right. You were talking about one day, though, we look back and see that was all necessary as part of the journey, because if things don't get thrown up and there's not a little bit of mayhem, then we don't address certain things, and that is part of the healing journey and raising our vibration. And I think you were talking earlier about that never ends, actually. That, it's not like we get to a point where, oh, well, we're working spiritually now, or we've met our guides and we're chatting away to them, and all of this is going on, so therefore we're all right, Jack, and we've got no more work to do. It doesn't work like that, does it, Leeann?
No, because you'll constantly be shown stuff, but from a different aspect. So whether 1 minute it was a relationship, the next minute it can be a friendship, a work situation, your children, but all in different things. And I think it puts you in that to see how you deal with it. And did you actually get out of that what you thought you got out of it? Or, did you think, well, actually I dealt with that differently last time, so I'll deal with this?
Did you transmute that energy? Did you let go of that programming or that belief? Did you learn that lesson?
Yeah. Or are you still bound into
it? Yeah. Yes.
And that's why at the moment I tell everyone it's so important to step about, and I don't, when I say it, it's not coming from like a hierarchy position, but just your own life, whatever's going in around it, just step and observe. Because I think by observing, you see a totally different a picture, and also it makes you not react, but you can actually go, rather than be in the fix of it, and then all of a sudden you're sucked into it and you're dealing with it from a totally different angle, and it can throw everything else out.
It's the thing about when you observe and you learn things, and you then start to apply those learnings, that you start to respond, not react. Because you're not coming from a place of programming and all the stuff that's already happened to you, this life or other lives. You're coming from a place of fresh energy, new energy that you've brought in, because you've created room for that energy to come in, for that light and knowledge to come in, by purging out all of the other energies that you've been carrying around for so long. And that is the process, isn't it?
Definitely.
And along the way, at some point, you're going to meet your guides. And that's it.
I think, right, we'll wrap it up on that one. And there's definitely more to come from us.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions or answers, just chuck them our way.
Yeah, do.
Because we would love to connect with everyone, and if you can take a little bit from our journey or can understand a little bit, that's what this is about. It's just sharing and just helping everyone, because it is sometimes you can think, oh, nobody else is going through it, or how do I do this, or is it a guide I'm connecting to, or is it an aspect of me, or know that there is help out there. We both work and we both have clients, and we're both here to help.
Absolutely.
So if you've got any questions or we can help you on your journey, please get in contact.
Get
Leave
in
messages and let us know.
Yeah, and also, as we said, I'm quite nosy, so I like to hear people's stories. So,
yeah, so on that note, take care and we'll see you all soon. Bye.